Hey goats, it's JOAT. Welcome back to a new vid. Apologies for the hiatus. As most of y'all know, I caught COVID again, so I was out for a week there and I took another week-long Discord break just to clear my head. It's good to stay off social media from time to time, but I'm back. And today we have JOAT Plus of June 2022. Interesting month for EDM. For those who don't know what this series is all about, I quickly round up usually 11 EDM projects that have dropped throughout the last month that I did not cover formally. Attached to the end of this video are some honorable mentions for y'all. I'm gonna be providing screenshots of the SoundCloud playlist, my June 2022 roundup. Link is in the description as always, but without further ado, let's get into these handpicked 11 projects that I want to cover this time around. Let's go. Starting off with this Bainbridge EP, Disciple Roundtable release. Fortunately, Bainbridge's upward trajectory as of late is still holding pretty strong with his newest batch of songs. This is kind of solid. It is. This EP definitely carries that underground Brigham energy that Bainbridge is known for, but it does step outside of that realm sonically a lot to its benefit. And yeah, the one exception to that rule is the bass house tune. That's pretty cool, despite the production not being the most clean. Arcane, the title track's weighty, croaky first drop, and Killfeed-esque second drop is nice. Spam's futuristic new rhythm delivery is sick. Very broad selection of sounds across this EP, all personalized to sound like Bainbridge. I don't love this thing. I'm not head over heels with it, but it's a cool listen and it does get the thumbs up from me. I am praying to hear more good Bainbridge music in the future. Alright, so I guess this was supposed to be a straight collab LP, but I have to get this off my chest. I despise when EDM LPs are just predominantly made up of collab tracks, especially when the product isn't good. I mean, when it comes to this LP right here, the saving grace of the songs that are listenable, at least, I feel like that has a lot to do with the collaborative artist on the track. The collaborative producer, and I hate to assume it is kind of unfair towards Bear Grillz, but the thing is, I'm familiar with a lot of these producers and it mostly sounds like they're doing the heavy lifting on these songs. I can barely remember what Bear Grillz sounds like at this point. I don't want to go too hard now, but off the rip, I was not getting a good feeling from this thing. Most of it is just mindless Brigham, and I'll pass personally when it comes to those. And the rest, again, it's not too bad. It is listenable. It's not god-awful. The OG Nixon collab, the Spaghetti collab. To be honest, Spaghetti's music has always been better than that of his contemporaries, the stark majority of the Brigham mainstream. The YDG collab is also pretty heavy, but can someone please explain to me why they just straight up bit Portal's flow in the first part of the second drop? Portal by Murata is damn near identical sound design too. And the Muerta and Jaqui are disappointing. I expected them to show the masses what the underground's all about, but they sold, unfortunately. Yeah, most of this vapid, devoid of any substance. It's like Onyx with more collabs, but I expected it to be underwhelming though. Nothing personal against Bear Grillz, but the mainstream has been slacking for years now, with merely a handful of exceptions, and y'all know who those exceptions are. Yeah, this LP isn't good. This Convexity EP is not bad at all. With the help of some solid collaborative efforts, this is one of the most musically diverse EPs I've ever heard on Rushdown, I'ma be real. Following the intro track, what sounds like a futuristic 80s commercial for some reason, I like it a lot. We get some pretty unique stuff across this entire thing. Title track is pretty standard for him, but the production is great, it's bouncy, it's good for what it is. I love the futuristic whirring droplet approach on the Caro collab. Second drop kind of has an obnoxious lead backing up the main idea, so it kind of falls apart for me. Still, first drop is great. Chimera and Parallax are what I've been looking for in Convexity's music, period. Smooth, slick jazz melodicity. The latter is definitely more toned down with its pinprick delivery, but both are super solid. The outro track is this solid, loungy piece of jazz, no complaints there either. And the Euphorian collab, bro. I mean, I expected nothing short of stellar production since Euphorian is on it, and I got it on this track. I think I like the first drop more with its jumbled flow and quirkiness just popping in and out of frame. Little bits of ear candy as well. I hear Discord sounds, fucking reverse bells. And I feel like I have to say this too. Back when the Timequake EP came out last year, it's about a year ago by now, I was a little harsh on it, I'm not gonna lie. I went back to it and I definitely like it more than I initially did, and I do see the appeal as well. It's maybe also because I'm more used to the modal mixture, dissonant, jazzy flavor that a lot of producers have incorporated into their music since. Me slowly being able to digest that approach thanks to people like Phonon and Dr. Lobster. Convexity now, it sounds pretty cool when he does it. I'm still not crazy about the Timequake EP. I like this EP more. I'm also not head over heels with it because of a couple lackluster drops, but nonetheless, there's a lot to appreciate here. And Convexity's passion for writing jazz melodies really shines through and works amongst the dubstep. Another quirky, delicate, hyperpop flavored batch of songs from the man himself, Grape Milk. The rough textures, the pattering percussion, the heavily compressed, almost crushed sounds, the homegrown, toned down appeal to a lot of this project, the plinkiness, the soothing, organic freeform arps. Just so much shit to point out that just sounds so good. The contrast between soft and soothing and hard and saturated, they work side by side in a beautiful way. The awkward sporadic flows and youthful vibrant energy this gives off. Highlights for me, I'd say the opener with its future-based influence, putting it to use in a great way, revitalizing it. 17/8, Serial Before Bed, and The Reset, I'd say. And don't get it twisted, this is more of a mixtape than an LP or even an album. There's some unfinished material on here, but it showcases raw creativity and loose, unfiltered ideas, and that's what I like about it so much. Some really enjoyable hyperpop-esque indie EDM shit on here. Grape Milk's a really underrated producer. Y'all should go check this out if you're into Porter Robinson, Jane Remover, any sort of hyperpop. This is Sven's latest collection of songs, which goes in an entirely different direction compared to his last EP, Damnation Tapes, which was straight techno with one death step exception. This EP combines the worlds of heavy metal and bass music, so you know it's going to be abrasive on the ear. Now, most of you know I'm not the biggest fan of metal. I can get into it in small doses. I might listen to a handful of songs here and there, but I'm far from what you'd consider to be a metalhead. And honestly, some parts of these songs are some of my least favorite ideas that Sven has put to the table so far under the INHUMAN alias, and it's not just all metal parts. Funnily enough, the parts of the EP that I don't enjoy as much are usually attached to songs that also have really enjoyable parts, so I wind up having mixed feelings on the tune overall. It's a taste thing really for most of these, but let me just run through the track list and give my thoughts on each individual tune, starting with War with Ghost Kid. The first drop, the lead pitching down is kind of sluggish, a little lumbering. I can't thoroughly get into the flow because it's so slow and tedious. Not a fan of that drop, but the second one is my favorite off the EP. Come on now, the machine guns layered with the reese in the back, twisting and turning every which way. Stuff like that really shows me how far bros come from the Code Pandorum days. The quiet collabs, intro and outro, are also a bit much for my taste. It's too screamo for me. The riffs are heavy, but I don't get much from it. To me, it's just loud to be loud, if that makes sense. The drops, though, especially the second one with the Reese playing out with the lead on top and the way the screeches come in the back, that's hard. Deathlist as a whole just really isn't for me. I mean, I can appreciate metal step from time to time, but I wasn't feeling this tune all too much as a whole. Not my type of music, but speaking of metal step, the very next track, Vengeance, I do like. The mid-tempo pacing, that main surging, riffy bass sound, and the way that switches up and gets ravier, it's intense, bro. And the final track, Phantoms, yet another hybrid trap venture, minimal, heavy, crunchy bass, harrowing lead, it's solid. Has another riff-heavy drop attached to the end that's decent too. Yeah, man, shout out to the vocalist that helped bro out on this thing, although I only really enjoyed about half the performances, I'd say. Still shout out to the Well Runs Red, Ghost Kid, Hungry Lights, Quiet, and Notions. For their vocal incorporations, they did add a lot, especially to these non-drop sections. In terms of production here, this EP's leveled up. The amalgamation of the metal influences fused into hybrid trap, dubstep, mid-tempo, it is clever, plus the melodic touches woven into everything as well. Those are grandiose. Like I said, not everything is for me. I'm still glad Sven is finding his true sound with this music under the INHUMAN alias, and I do love, really love, the concept of releasing EPs that go in their own unique direction in terms of concept and style and genre. So yeah, I definitely do prefer Damnation tapes compared to this, but this is very interesting as well, and it's a decent listen overall. I can't wait to see what bro does next. I don't know if it's weird to never have heard of Kayzo until he was on IG Live with Murata like a year ago, but that's personally the first time I ever heard of him. I really can't tell the difference between what bro's offering here and what Sullivan King does, for example. I guess I like Kayzo's music a little more. Well, at least on the metal / dubstep side of things, their styles are damn near identical. The non-dubstep stuff on here overall is genuinely solid though, namely the Kamiyada collab. I've been a fan of his stuff for a while now, and I love to see him collab with a bass producer. The OST collab, War, I do like my mid-tempo-y metal step from time to time, see my INHUMAN review. I want to like the Jaqui collab so bad, but the mixing, the synths, they just hit so weirdly. And not even AT-Aliens could save their joint venture with bro on here. It feels so disjointed for some reason. Like, I like my collabs to be creatively woven, both or however many producers come together. I want to see their styles mesh in a unique way. So this was kind of a letdown, even though some of the sounds are top notch, thanks to AT-Aliens themselves. Moonlight's solid, the breakbeat, the metal delivery, and the title track as well. I like the psytrance basses on it, it's pretty nasty. Yeah, this album's diverse, it's all over the place. The dubstep, again, unfortunately, is your typical neck breaker, walls of noise shit. It's mostly bland. And for some reason, bro decides to go 2000s punk rock on some of the later songs. It's okay, but just sounds a little tacky. Kind of funny, but hey, we all have our own kinks. I really wish he put more care into the dubstep parts here. Everything else I can kind of appreciate, I guess. This LP as a whole is whatever. The start majority I'm not gonna go back to. But shout out Kayzo for bringing such eclectic influences to this thing. That's admirable. Just the arrangement, the way it's put together, the execution, it's not really it. First off, shout out to INHUMAN, Sven, for putting me onto this person, these people. About a year ago, I've been intrigued by their music since. I'm a deep dub fan. I used to heavily be into Le Lion, Midnight Tyrannosaurus, deep dubstep is good. AT-Aliens, of course, I love them reinventing the entire sound of it. Shout out Dreer too. Good deep dubstep is harder to pull off than it seems. And this is good deep dub. It's well balanced, minimal, murky, it gets under your skin, and the EP flows nicely too. I love when you can just listen to a full EP from front to back. That's bonus points for me. Personally, Swarm's sound design is kind of silly. It sounds too much like a fly or a mosquito, and especially now in the summertime, I cannot stand their buzzing. But yeah, some freeform influence on this thing, classic dub vibes all across it. It's chill. I do recommend it if you're into this vein of dubstep, freeform, deep dub, more classic shit, whatever. This is tight. I think I've covered Kryture before on JOAT+, and I somehow stumbled across this EP too. To be honest, Bygore drops some underrated gems from time to time. Shit that just goes over people's heads. And there are bits of this EP where that statement is accurate. It's heavy, it's stompy, it definitely has its highlights like I just said. But yeah, they sell themselves short with some of this pretty basic rhythm. I wouldn't quite call it generic. It's not bad enough for me to call it generic, but it is forgettable and sounds like it's made for live sets only. But hey, specific timbres, synth movement, there's no doubt in my mind that Kryture can be really creative when they want to be. Take track 1, Hellfire. I love the initial snare in the drops, the flow, the delivery, the punch. There's more than meets the eye. Tear Song's final start stop drop, it's thick, it's good. ASO Tune's screechy, pitchy sounds are also very catchy. I think I like their other EP more than this one, if I recall correctly. Here the mixing is rough around the edges. And yeah, there's too much stuff on here that's not quite interesting enough for me to call the EP solid. But best believe I'm now tapped into this producer. Kryture definitely has their lightning in a bottle moments, and they show up on their EPs from time to time, especially on this one, so I'm intrigued. I'm really hoping for a more well-groomed and captivating EP from them because I've heard enough of their music to know that I could really get into their stuff if it wasn't surrounded by so much mid, for lack of better terminology, but yeah. That's my thoughts on that. Moore's highly anticipated debut album finally dropped last month, and it more or less met the gargantuan standards that these singles set for it. I still don't think any of these songs top Rumor. I completely understand why that song has millions of streams on Spotify by now. It's probably my favorite track of Moore's as well. Still, the vocal features on here, solid. The production, superb, of course. And they ventured so far from dubstep at this point. This is a project more in its own lane, like Nurture by Porter Robinson, for example. Really can't be classified or categorized. After all, Moore is that pioneer of the new age, all-encompassing EDM sound that pulls from trap and dubstep and so much more. It can be glossy and beepy bloopy, glitchy, multifaceted, eclectic. Call of the Unicorn sustain I'm not big on. It's tedious, it's annoying, it just sits there. The way it pitches, I'm not a fan. That track is a low point for me on this LP. Also, Vendetta for Cupid's Jersey Club drop. Hot take, isn't all that good. I don't know, I just don't really like the vocal chops that back up the kicks. And I kind of expected more from the Laxity collab, especially how talented Laxity is. I guess melodically it's not too exciting for me, although the outro is top tier blissful. Parallel Heartbreak's lo-fi pulsating synths are so nice on the ear. I know Moore has an ID that's similar to this tune, that I like much more, by the way. I think it's a reboot of a Skybreak song or something. They put it on their Celestial Series Volume 2 mix. Shadow Soldier's unorthodox percussion patterns all over the ethereal, hazy beautifulness. Beautifulness. This LP is great. The production really has that wow factor. Loads of ear candy to sink your teeth into. I don't love everything, every single little thing, admittedly, front to back, but I can chalk most of it up to personal preference. And yeah, I can't wait to see what Moore does from here. Their level of talent, technical ability, at their age, is fucking crazy. I always like to come across new hybrid trap, especially if it's well crafted like most of the stuff on here. This is a pretty solid bass rush release. Maybe outside of the final track, Bulletproof, which is kind of basic. The leads, wubs, and bass lines on this EP are on par. I love how crazy he goes with the kicks on Roller. The more murky number just adds that little bit of spice. Underground's technological sound design is pretty different. Definitely the most unique on here. I even get the feeling that he almost held himself back on that tune. The idea is superb. It's excellent. Not much to say about this outside of that. It's a pretty cool EP. I don't think I'd heard of Rankz beforehand. Maybe the name, but I gotta go check him out. This is pretty nice. I've been pretty iffy on Sharploud's music, at least the stuff I've heard. Their song that they dropped on Cyclops, what was it, Armageddon? Nightcrawler, it grew off me quick. I don't like that song at all now. It's so annoying to me. I checked out their SoundCloud and found some decent music, but not too special really, especially put up against the greater New Rhythm sphere. And those are exactly the vibes I get from this EP. It checks all the new rhythm boxes. It's okay, it's listenable, but are they doing anything different with this EP that hasn't been done before? Nah. If you told me this was crippling or volative behind the music, I would have taken your word for it, no questions asked. I like Sussy. The flow is cool, the synths are succulent. The other two songs are tolerable, but this is one of those in the moment fast food EPs that I feel like hold no weight over time. And I don't expect each and every bit of music to be crazy, unique, groundbreaking, reinventing the wheel or anything. I've said this before, but this is just your average, typical, standard new rhythm stuff. So it's done decently for what it is, don't get me wrong, and it's kind of catchy, but it's been done before. Way too similar, way too often, and yeah, I'll leave it at that. Yeah, y'all, those were the 11 projects I decided to cover for the month of June. Let's get to my other honorable mentions, including, of course, my favorite songs off of the projects I just covered. 3, 2, 1, screenshots right here. Feel free to pause the video if you'd like, but of course, link to the SoundCloud playlist is in the description box below. Anyway, this has been your boy Joe. Like I said, I'm back. I have some interesting videos in the works. Hopefully those drop soon. But yeah, if you enjoyed my coverage of any of these projects, make sure to go show the producer some love. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to go follow my socials. Make sure to subscribe and like the video. Join my Discord, follow my Twitter, as well as everything else for news and updates on the channel. And I'll see you on the next vid. Bye.